Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Beyond the Album Cover with yours truly, Jarrell Mason, where we get inside the entertainment industry with those in the know and give them their flowers while they're here to be celebrated. With me right now, I have a man who had his hand in many pots over the years, whether it be speaking to motivate others, giving a good word at Unity Fellowship Church out in Newark, New Jersey, and he's from Chocolate City, DC, and BET, notarized, access granted. His name has been on all our minds for years, and you're going to get to hear his story, true, no filter, all real. Mr. Kevin E. Taylor. Mr. Taylor, welcome to Beyond the Album Cover, sir.
Thank you, good sir. Pleasure to be here, brother. Pleasure to be here.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day, Sunday, to do this interview with me.
You're welcome. You're welcome indeed. It's honor. I'm honored. Anytime we can have a conversation about the culture, about BET, about Blackness, about honoring our journeys, I'm in. So good work you're doing.
Thank you. It's for the culture, Black Star Power, and we're giving you a choice. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And also be sure to go to Amazon to get that exclusive BT licensed wear. I got my BT hoodie. I'll be sure to show you that at the end of the interview so you can see that. So like I mentioned at the top of the interview, you are from Chocolate City. So what was that like growing up in Chocolate City during the time of you had the late John Thompson doing his thing with Georgetown? You have Howard University right there, and they're celebrating this week as Madam VP Harris takes office, and just how growing up in the nation's capital influenced you.
It's really interesting because, you know, the later I moved in life to meet people, especially Black people who are from around the world, I realized what a unique experience it was to be from a city where we had a Black mayor, much of the city council was Black. You know, for the most part, getting a cab wasn't an issue just because the cab drivers were Black. You know, there were, being in the projects even where I grew up down in Southwest by the waterfront, but being able to walk, you know, a few miles, which I did almost every weekend, and be at the Capitol, be at the monument, to be at, you know, Air and Space Museum, where I spent like more time than it seems even smart. Then, you know, since I didn't want to be a pilot, it was just getting to the museums and being able to be at the Smithsonian and see all that history, and to see it in the context of this city that had no, you know, that was getting taxation without representation, that was run by Black people. So I, you know, Black teachers, it was great to be told I was smart by Black people. It was good to be encouraged and poured into by my community. As a matter of fact, you know, we were talking, you and I, earlier about why I went to where I went to college, and I ended up going to Guilford College because everybody was like, "Oh man, ain't you going to Howard?" I was like, "I'm not taking the bus to college. That's not the experience." And by my senior year, we were on Montello Avenue. So yeah, I would have taken one bus over to Georgia Avenue. I was like, "Yeah, that's not college." And partly as I was going through the brochures and all of that stuff after the PSATs and visiting campuses, I went to a predominantly white institution at the time because I wanted to see if I was Black smart or smart, you know? Because Black people just kind of pat you on the head and be like, "Oh, go on and do the thing." And being close to Howard, but not on Howard's campus, I didn't understand at the time the importance of that kind of Black voice, that Black leadership voice in my head. I understood it at work. I understood it at, you know, because I was already working at a government job by junior year in high school. I understood it in life, you know, but it was a 17-year-old's life. There was nobody who sat down and said, maybe you should go to Morehouse. Maybe you should, because they were just also, you know, overwhelmed by the fact that this boy got a perfect SAT score and was looking at Brown and Cornell, and, you know, they were like, "Ooh, we can go there." And so I went to, you know, growing up in DC was about culture. You know, it wasn't, you know, I remember the mayoral campaign for the first mayor of Washington, DC, Walter E. Washington. I remember that. I remember Washington for Washington in 1974. He's done a lot for us. He's going to do a lot more. He's got the answer, and he's going to tell us all Washington for Washington in 1970. I remember as clear as day. So I will definitely say that it anchored me and gave me the balls, if you will, to test white institutions. Because I didn't go there like, oh, thank you so much for letting me be here. I was very kind of in classrooms with white boys and girls, young people. And I was like, oh, that's what y'all think? That's very white of you. And they were like, you can't say that to people. So I just started to call white people Cracker Jack and Cracker Jill. And they were like, what is wrong with you? Why did you come on this campus to be this militant? But it wasn't about that. It was just kind of the accountability to be able to say to people that I come from somewhere. It was very interesting to be on campus my first semester and hear that people were talking about me because I was a rare Black boy on campus who wasn't there on an athletic scholarship. Then they heard I came from DC. So by the middle of the first semester, bro, I heard that I was the son of Ron Dellums or Bill Gray. Senator Ron Dellums was senator, because that's the only way I could be there. And so they decided it was Ron Dellums because I went to school with Piper. And so somehow somebody must have put us in the same location. And that's where it landed. But, it anchored me. It challenged me. Being from DC grounded me. You cannot test me because I'm from DC all day, every day. I can go anywhere in the world and I feel like being from DC, like inside DC and living in a neighborhood that's got the projects here, and then across the street was a glass high rise that senators lived in, and you go around to the wharf and you go up through LaFont Plaza, then you right at the Smithsonian. We lived a cultural code shift. I lived code switching every day.
And you probably have the mumbo sauce in the bag swag. Now, if you don't know mumbo sauce, listen.
When I tell you, one of my friends for my birthday this past September, so apparently they selling mumbo sauce on QVC from one of the DC entrepreneurs, and I got a little box for my birthday, and it was 2 jars of mumbo sauce. Man, I love where I am. I love my life, but I'm telling you, every time I come back to visit, I go to Eddie Leonard's and get 10 chicken wings and some mumbo sauce, because
I ordered
because I can.
Because I ordered me some Capital City mumbo sauce, right? Man, listen, that changed my life. Pour that over some fried rice, some chicken wings, but you got to go to an authentic carry-out Chinese food spot, for those that don't know, to get the real deal. And if you're messy, get it on the side.
Break your chicken up and dip it, I like pouring it, because it's a messy experience. It's supposed to be messy. It's supposed to make you stop, eat, and enjoy the food,
Yeah, and also check out Ben's Chili Bowl for their half smokes.
Man, stop. Shh. A half smoke with some chili, 2 half smokes with some chili on the fries. Yeah, don't.
Yeah, a couple years ago,
chili all over it. To again make sure you sit down somewhere and eat it. Ben's Chili Bowl ain't no walking hot dog. That's not what it's built for.
No, it surely is not, because my wife and I, we took a trip to DC about maybe 3 years ago. We went to the African American Smithsonian Museum and we made a stop by Ben's. So I was telling her about the half smokes and how's a tradition in DC, and how anybody, that's everybody. You can mix the politicians, everybody that's in government, to the everyday commoner. You all congregate at Ben's Chili Bowl.
Yeah. Again, U Street, that corridor, you could, between that and Republic Gardens that was right up the street, that corridor was just because, what is it now? The John Wilson building. That's some DC municipal building. So you could run into the mayor, council people, anybody that's come in town, it would right there, because, that road, people don't realize, between Howard and Georgia Avenue and the Reeves Center at 14th and U, right there is just kind of a what is it? Busboys and Poets is in there now. It's just rich with culture, and Ben's Chili Bowl has been the anchor of it for generations.
Definitely a DC staple. So if you're ever in DC, check out Ben's. Now, can you talk about briefly the impact that the late John Thompson had on not only Georgetown University, but DC, because he was known to be a figure that you didn't want to mess with. And he even told some of the local street pushers, stay away from my players, because he didn't play that.
And, John Thompson was just I wasn't a college basketball fan, and I knew who John Thompson was. John Thompson was a figure on the news. He was in magazines. He was you know, you see him in the Evening Star or the Washington Post, you know, or the Washington Times, just because he was just that big a figure. He made his presence known, like you said, you know, like kind of going into the streets to try to distract, you know, young players that had come to him, you know, either locally or from around the country. And he was a giant who made sure that the streets knew he would do whatever it took to protect his, you know, his boys. Like, and he said, my boys, he treated them like they were his sons. And if you mess with them, if you threw them off, you were messing with him. And so, you know, John Thompson was, again, you know, I remember magazine articles and newspaper articles that we would keep, and, you know, I would read them to my brothers just because we were like, how is this man so important? Why do we know about him when he's a college coach? You know what I mean? But he was a very, very, very big deal. You know, there was some, you know, some institutions in DC, and, you know, Chuck Brown, Mayor Marion Barry, John Thompson.
Now, Chuck Brown, for those of you that don't know, Godfather of Go-Go. Now I'm going to trip you out with this. Where I'm from in North Carolina, Chuck Brown was born in that same area in Northampton County, North Carolina, before he ended up moving to DC.
Oh, okay. Okay. So y'all can own some, so y'all have some history in his legacy. Okay.
Yeah, a little bit, but not as big as DC. But now we're mentioning prior to the interview, both of us went to college in Greensboro. Yourself, Guilford College, World Be Free, alum of Guilford. I went to University of North Carolina at Greensboro. And a lot of people from the DMV, for those of you that don't know, that's DC, Maryland, and VA, they would import their go-go music down south because we got a little bit of taste of it because of that, like EU, Rare Essence, Treble Funk. We can go on and on. So can we talk about?
But you got it because some, you know, because artists like, you know, EU ended up having a big hit later in the 80s because of Spike Lee. But, you know, Salt and Pepper and a couple of those hip hop artists really put them on. You talk about how it got him, you know, go-go got imported down south. I did my my junior year in London because of Guilford College, and we got to do, we did a semester abroad, and I was walking down a street in King's Road in London, listening to go-go on my Walkman, and walked into a store and they were playing go-go. They were playing some Treble Funk, and I was like, what? You know, I took off my headset and I was like, how do I still hear go-go in London? And, you know, God was like, mate, you call, oh my God, you from DC? Oh my God. And he was like, you got any go-go? And I was like, I'm listening to some right now. Bruh, I took that dude, the two of my go-go cassette tapes that, you know, I brought with me so that I didn't miss home. I got a suit made free because I gave him those two cassettes. Free.
That just shows you the power of go-go.
I'm talking about one of them suits that they travel the globe to come get.
Man, that just shows you how go-go was so powerful enough that you got hooked up to have a free suit on, be suited and booted. Now, also DC around the mid to late 80s, early 90s, drugs were ravaging amongst the area. Then, of course, in 1986, you know, what happened at Maryland with Len Bias passing, and how did that impact everyone around the DMV, knowing that he was about to really explode on the national scene, getting drafted by the Celtics, and then one fatal night cut everything short for him.
And you were talking about the importance of John Thompson just a moment ago. That's why John Thompson was such a giant and such a protector of his players, because all it took was one night. You know, we thought, you know, like anybody, you thought that the talk of going pro for somebody from right around where you thought that talk, you know, insulated you. You thought that talk, you know, and that journey for anybody was like, oh my God, he made it, right? And so that the night before, just one night, one pull, whatever it was that happened that night that ended his life because, you know, of his heart, it just made us have different conversations, right? Because, you know, because you just never knew. One, you know, thinking you young and, you know, young, dumb, and full of could get you, you know, could zero convert your HIV status. One drinking one of them Zimas, you know, that was so much alcohol that used to burn your chest. People was blacking out over it. He had somebody with, there was all these things in the 80s that just all started to hit at the same time that either checked you, you know, that's really for me, why check yourself before you wreck yourself was always in my head, because it was always this one moment, you know, that was the thing that made the news. somebody had made one decision that ended them, not, send them to jail. It killed people. It was killing people, or at the time, like I said, somebody, some girl getting pregnant, but it was one time. I didn't think you get pregnant one time. I didn't think you get pregnant first time. It was all of this all of those conversations got had at the same time because of Len Bias, right? Because Len was a star. Len was, made nightly news, when they did, when they often did those, Redskin updates and the Bullet updates, you know what I mean? They was going, they were going to, if they could, fit him in there because he was aspiration, right? And then that all dissolved in one night. So it was a very, very big deal. I remember my pastor preaching about it, from the pulpit, not that first Sunday, but the following, like he almost needed to take it in for a minute,
Yeah, because I was looking at the 30 for 30 without bias and just seeing his highlights of when it was matching up against Jordan and some of the other big names that were in the ACC at that time. And knowing that he got drafted to the Celtics, he was in good shape to keep that lineage going with Bird, McHale, Parrish, ML Carr, Cornbread, Maxwell, all of those guys.
And I mean, again, he was a Titan, right? And for him to be, for us, that's, think about college age, that's the dude on the basketball court, in your neighborhood, at the recreation center. And here he is on local and national news at least once a week when they win season, and just to see it, his death, people want to make it seem like it sent, some sort of ripple. It was an earthquake because it threw everybody off. And, it was, again, that belief that that opportunity would cover you and protect you, and that somehow it came with a whole bunch of people who made you make better decisions when it didn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was also looking at the ESPN piece called Dunbar Boys, I believe, about the Dunbar Poets over in Baltimore with David Wingate, Muggsy Bogues, and those guys, and how they were saying a lot of the dealers were kind of looking out for them, say, hey, stay out the streets. I'll give you this. Even though we know where this money come from, I don't want to see you out here jacking somebody for something.
And again, and I even think that is, probably why it was such a shock, because you're right, because I grew up in the projects, Southwest M Street and Delaware Avenue. And, even in those little spaces, it was always, that good hood, the dude who was looking out for you, because I had those dudes protect me, be like, nah, you ain't going to this party. Because I was smart and was sitting in the library all day. They were like, what you doing here? I was like, I just want to hang out. Nope, you don't get to do that. No.
This is back in the days when you used to have a hooper's pass or just a pass in general, where if they knew you had potential to get out, whether it's athletics or academics, they will make sure you were straight and make sure that you weren't in spots where you didn't need to be.
Yeah. And took you out forcefully if they had to.
Mm-hmm. And
threatened you.
Oh yeah, they put the hand in the coat, and he's not giving you a pamphlet either. We know what's in the coat, so it's you know. So culturally, what was the transition like for you coming from DMV, going down south to North Carolina, and then intermingling with UNCG, Salem State, Wake Forest?
One of the insulating things about, like I said, being from this black city was going to see if I was black smart or smart. But I didn't realize how protected I was in the culture I was from until one day, just, Guilford College is on, this lush campus over here, this little campus. Across the street was like a gas station or something. And then the road on this side, I think was Guilford Road or Guilford Avenue, was a major road. And, right there was 3 or 4, like a bank, a supermarket was, where we lived our lives. So I remember coming to the front of the campus across the street to go get groceries. And like 4 white boys in a truck, literally, nigga. And I was like, whoa, this is real. Like, the thing that mom and them, because my mother's from Mississippi, that people were like, you be careful down there. And I was like, what they gonna do? And, and I was like, yo, it's 4 of them right here to stop. It was interesting though, because something in the moment, bro, also tapped me into my black superpower. You know what I'm saying? My friend Napoleon the Legend calls it black privilege, because there was something about the fact that They waited till the light changed to do it, even though it was 4 of them. You know what I mean? I was like, they could have easily jumped me, but there was something about the fact that I'm, you know, even if I'm 6'2", you know, even at the time I was leaner, but still, you know, a black dude. And I remember after they said that, I remember looking around because, you know, this is, you know, I remember looking, going, okay, if I have to, there's a tree branch over there. So if I have to, 1 or 2 of them gonna die if they take me out. You know what I mean? But that moment, that culture shift was a culture shock because I had, you know, and it was, and I will say this, the single moment where I got out of the nigger debate, you know, because black people always, oh, nigga, it's cool. It's a term of endearment. I was like, yeah, no. Some of y'all say it like them white boys on that truck. Somebody owe you some money, you catch somebody with your girl, you ready to fight, it come out of your mouth. The same vitriol that I heard on that red pickup truck in Greensboro, North Carolina. So I'm not debating with y'all. It's not, ain't no term of endearment. You can't take back a word that is dipped, fried in, and laced with hate. You just can't take it and make it pretty. You can try to justify it, but then you see somebody, that same dude that owe you $20, that same dude looking at your girl, you're gonna use that same word with the A or the AH on it, and the rage coming out of your mouth sound just like them boys on that red pickup truck. So It was a huge shift.
Yeah, I kind of had a shift myself when I went to UNCG. The high school I went to in the area I grew up, predominantly African American. UNCG, predominantly white, although we have a good amount of international students. So it was my first time intermingling with, you know, white people, and then being in spaces where I'm the only one, or where this may be your first experience with somebody black. Thankfully, nobody asked me to touch their hair. So it was my first time learning, like how you were talking about code switching, about how to navigate in 2 worlds. While we had that slice of HBCU life on campus with the fraternities and sororities, although we didn't have a football team, you knew most of the black folks at UNCG's campus would show up when it was basketball season and when it was time for probate, and then Black Student Union. So it was interesting to try to be able to carve out a space where you want to feel proud of your blackness and not have to be compromised, but just know the majority space says, we're going to have to put up with you, and we're going to try to be PC about it.
Right. And it's really interesting too, because we had an incident, you know, Guilford was a Quaker liberal arts school. So the Quaker practice is that, you know, if there is in fact a conflict of any sort, there is a meeting held, right? And one of the black football players ended up having somebody from UNCG come onto the campus looking for him with a shotgun. We were like, what happened? And I remember us having to have like a midnight meeting about this because it had caused such a uproar on the campus. And it was just very interesting for me to see the ways that the Northern and the Southern, the male and the female, the athletic and the academic all went away when we became, you know, when we realized we were black. So no matter what, you know, we always had some sort of moment, some little, you know, some sort of way of engaging that made sure we knew as black folk, we had each other's back. And there was that moment. Then we had a moment where, you know, one of the brothers on campus, also on academic scholarship, I mean, not on academic and not on academic scholarship, just there, smart student. This is school he chose to go to. And he was in like a philosophy class, and the teacher, you know, the professor brought up the story of this character named Werther, and then talking about him, he said, you know, he was, you know, he was a commoner, but he had the brain of genius, and so he could go from world to world. You know, he could be in, you know, amongst, you know, the civilians and then amongst royalty and engage them, you know, and apparently he said, you know, he was kind of like he was a house nigga and a field nigga, and he said that in the class with mostly white people and one very fair-skinned black dude who ended up bringing it to the black, you know, the African American Cultural Society, which is what we were, the Black Student Union on Guilford's campus. So he brought it to us in a meeting first. Then we had to bring our, you know, the black faculty in because we need some support because this could get black, you know what I mean? And then just the way that they helped us handle writing it up, getting him censored, you know, handling it in a way that made sure it had some impact, you know what I mean? Because we was ready. I'm DC. I was ready to break, you know, smash some windows and cut his tires. I was ready to make him feel afraid, you know, and they made him feel afraid for his job. And that was, that was a really smart lesson that I learned. But yeah, that the culture shifts, like you said, being on, Guilford's campus probably has, 1,500 people, probably had 1,100 when I was there. And I could in my class name the Black men, period. I was friends with the Black men who weren't there on athletic scholarship, the students, and probably, one of them, I have a relationship with to this day, and I graduated in 1987. And so, there was something that connected us all, because that was, college is what, 18, 19 to 23. It's pivotal. And we had some pivotal lessons in there, that shook some of us who weren't from the South, and that shook some folk that empowered some people who were from the South. And, it felt different to be on the campus and have some support that was going to, it wasn't instantly going to go the Southern route. That's how we call it.
Right. And for those of you that don't know, Greensboro definitely influencer as far as the civil rights movement, home of the sit-in movement. Go check out the International Civil Rights Museum on February 1 Road. If you go to A&T's campus, there's a statue of the Greensboro Four. And also look up Greensboro Truth and Reconciliation. There's another topic for another day.
Come on, sir.
And then also too, Climax, North Carolina, a man by the name of Clarence Avant. Yes, Mr. Clarence Avant, Taboo Records, Sussex, Dennis Coffey, Bill Withers. May I go on and go forth? He's from around there. And then I believe Deborah Lee is from Greensboro as well.
Yes, sir. I saw the greatest show of my life at the Greensboro Coliseum when Prince went on tour with the Purple Rain tour. I saw some of the best shows of my life in Greensboro. Prince on the Purple Rain tour with Sheila E. opened an act with flowers rained down from the ceiling. Ashford and Simpson coming out of a boulder during their Solid as a Rock tour. First time I saw Anita Baker live, 1986. She opened for Jeffrey Osborne when he was real popular with the Woo Woo song. It was, life in Greensboro. And just, and people wondered how a Black boy from DC survived, down there in the South. Is because A&T was not far, and UNCG, we knew where to go to be culturated, we knew what church to go to for Easter Sunday.
United House of Prayer, Best Soul Food.
Boom.
Also Stephanie's on Ottoman Road, and also Maxie B's. And one regret that I had when I went to UNCG, I never got to go to a concert at the Coliseum, even though it was right up the street. So I never went to Super Jam. And you were at Greensboro when Super Jam was at its height.
You didn't?
No, sir. No, sir. If you look at the show Atlanta, when in the jail scene season 1, where the guy told Donald Glover stop being weird, I was focused on school and on my radio show on WAG's campus. But Greensboro Coliseum was right up the street, so I never made it to a concert or ACC tournament. But I did go sample that barbecue across the street at Staney's.
Look, okay. Wow. I mean, I get it, because I went to school at like literally, it was all about academia. It was all about being a Dana scholar. But being from DC, I needed Black folk. I needed culture. You see I got a case in the front room that still holds 1,000 CDs. My whole Natalie Cole collection, Patti LaBelle collection, Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, Stevie Wonder, Luther Vandross, like literally the whole collection. So, to be able to to see Prince walk up under the stage and say, "Good evening, Greensboro. My name is Prince, and I've come to play with you, dearly beloved." And you feel this rumble. It's like, the stage is open and he starts to rise, and you're like, God, I mean, that's the stage, but we up here, how can we feel that so strong? And you look up and realize that the ceiling is opening and it's raining fresh flowers on us while he's rising. And it's like, what is this? And, just the best show I've ever seen in my life. Just Greensboro, wholesome, one of my best friends on the entire planet. I met the day, like minority student orientation, the first day on campus. And she and I could not talk for a year and get on the phone for 6 hours. So, there was just something about that time, that point in our lives. She and I also, and another Black student, also went to London together. So we were there for that experience. She and I especially traveled, took like a month off and was like, we here in Europe, we're going to get us to you real fast and we're going to see everything. So that opportunity was centered in Greensboro, but it gave me the world.
Mm-hmm. So what was that experience like for you going over to London doing study abroad? Because I didn't really realize about the racism that blacks face in the UK until I was speaking with those that lived in the UK and watched the movie Babylon and was thinking like, oh, this same stuff goes on over there like it does here, but it's just more subtle over in the UK.
And so we knew there was going to be a problem because I think 35 of us went and there were 32 white kids. Well, actually, there were 31 white kids, one Indian kid. He might have been Indian. No, I think Fred was Indian and, nope, I think it was pure Indian. No, he couldn't have been. I think his mom was Indian, his stepfather was white. So it was 31 white kids, an Indian kid, and then us 3 blacks. And when we first got there, it was late August, and the Notting Hill Gate Festival was, like that weekend. And we got the warning, and I don't remember if it was from no, it had to have been somebody local. So some local tour guide or something, telling us to be careful, to stay away or stay vigilant if we made our way near the Notting Hill Gate Festival. We were like, ooh, okay, we should be. And then we saw the newspaper from last year's festival, and it was like all these island people dancing with the bobbies in the street. And we were like, oh crap, they just told us to stay away from the black event, right? So of course, me, Celeste, and Cynthia, a couple of other kids, we made our way directly to them, and we were in the streets like, what are they talking about? This is fire, and it was just, that made me go searching. First of all, hello, bruh, because I had to. Fish and chips are good, but I needed to know where the oxtails were. I needed to know where the fried chicken was. I needed to know how to get a lineup. I needed to know where black people shopped. I needed to know where black people went to church. And so literally, it was Celeste and I walked, because we went to Queens, Bayswater area. And so we could walk a few blocks and be in kind of the heart of downtown and see the difference between being around colored people, right? Mm-hmm. Indian, South Asian, people, brown people from other areas, and desperately seeing black people, because we knew there was a separate cultural conversation to be had. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Again, and it not only played a role there, it played a role when we traveled and like would see people in Milan on the street, and they'd be like, hey, and spend 2 days together. Because, where y'all going to dinner? Because we cleave to each other. And yeah, I remember, when it was time to go get my hair cut, was finally feeling straggly. And, and somebody said, yeah, well, the best barbers are in Brighton, but I don't know if you want to go in Brighton. I was like, then we going to Brighton, right? We going to where the black people live. And it felt like, oh, snap. For me, it felt like, oh, this is around the world. Because it's like, the heart of DC, Mall Park, and then, just like we would, when this insurrection happened at the Capitol, what people were, when I was laughing at what people in my ha-ha laugh, and it's like, those crazy fools turn the wrong corner and end up down East Capitol Street the wrong way in DC, somebody gonna get their skull bust open. That's what London felt like. It's like, yeah, here's this London, but you get on the train and go a few stops that way because you're going to get your hair cut. So while you're there, you may as well get some, some sorrel and some ackee and some, from this. You're like, this is a whole nother spot. London got hood. London got projects. London got black people in a bad way. Okay. And we saw that in Paris. We saw that, in as we traveled everywhere.
It's hoods everywhere. And if you look at the Netflix series Top Boy, it's like the British version of The Wire.
Yeah. No doubt. It's the British version of The Wire.
Right. So about Nando's and that peri-peri sauce. And I take that as a yes. So you graduate from Guilford at this point. So did BET come into the picture directly after college, or did you work a job before BET and was thinking, I need to get out?
I came to Guilford College already working for the DC government. I started working there my junior year. And so there was a point in my senior year where I had enough credits that I was doing a half day. So I would do 3 classes, get on a bus, and go to my job at 3149 16th Street was where the Department of Recreation headquarters was. So I would take the bus across there, get up, get lunch, go in. And the great thing about that that was, I had all the support, I had all the structure, and I wonder what it saved me from, because there were no spring breaks for me. There was leave campus on Saturday morning, get home, drive, get home Saturday, mid-afternoon if I left early enough. That night, Mom was frying my favorite meal. Sunday, we went to church. Monday, I went to work. And my job left work for me. So if they knew I was coming home spring break, I would open the file cabinet and literally there'd be stacks on top of stacks. And they would leave it for me because when I, my 11th and 12th grade years, I developed this filing system. And so they were like, we ain't trying to mess up your system, so we don't touch it. We just put it in there. And so when I graduate, with every year, because I was taking accounting, my major was English, Spanish, but my main major was accounting. And so every semester I got a raise. Every semester I got a raise. So by the time I graduated, they changed. They gave me a formal title, benefits, and all of that. And so I was like, "That's a good job. I got a good government job," And I was in it. I liked it. It was professional. It was engaging. Because where the department was in the middle of the Latin community in DC and Adams Morgan. And so if somebody came in, like to one of the other departments who couldn't speak English, they would call me. So I was, I had relationships with cultural activities, accounting, reservations for the parks and the playgrounds. And so, it was exciting. It felt like, wow, this experience of living in, being from DC, having this good job is crazy. I'm living this life. And then, one day I got called to jury duty. That's what it was. I got called to jury duty and ended up having to go to work. And because of where the Judiciary Square is, I ended up going to work on a direction that that I wouldn't have normally gone in. And it went past BET headquarters in Northeast. And at the time, I did not know BET was in DC. I knew they were in the area. And my prayer out loud, Jarrell, was literally, God, I want to work there. But I'm thinking, I got a degree in English, Spanish, and accounting. That's the TV station. I don't know nothing about it. So it literally just, like, if you could see it in the dream, in the movie of my life, the prayer would have gone up like a light smoke, like, there was no way that it could have had any weight to it, because I would have had no way to know how to get there. And then over the next 2 years, because that's the funny thing about kind of speaking your truth, over the next 2 years, like, work got funny and I got moved around to different departments and doing other stuff. And I just realized I had outgrown it. And I ended up talking to my boss in the communications department. And she was like, so my husband is looking for a legal assistant in his office, and my best girlfriend is looking for a managerial aide in her editorial assistant in her management firm, which, these are opportunities because it's really time for you to go. I go and pick, even though people have always said my whole life, boy, the way you talk, the way you can talk, you negotiate, use words, you should be a lawyer. Why didn't that legal opportunity just scream to me? I was like, do this one. And I went to this job after I left the Department of Recreation where I was sick, where I was there for 2 months. And it was in the summer, in the height of DC summer, June and July. I went into this office and was sick every day because I'm one of these people, if you've ever spent down, DC hot. DC in the summer can just like make you not want to touch yourself hot, And so I'm in this office having to wear a shirt and tie every day. And then, DC's 90 degrees and with your humidity feeling like 106. And then I was going into an office with no windows, air blowing consistently that was probably 60 degrees. So as you can imagine. And then one day they said to me, so we're moving our office from downtown. It was downtown directly across from the Warner Theater. They said they were moving to the courthouse in Virginia. And then even though I had only been completed 2/3, so 2 months of my 3-month probation, they said, we're going to give you the job permanently if you take the job and want to come with us. And God said to me, bro, if you trust me, don't go. And I was like, what? The blessing was having, been with this government job so long, I still had sick leave and vacation time that I could live on. And so I was like, for the first time since I was 12, and I've been working now, I was 26, I took time off and I was like, okay, just breathe, just breathe, just breathe. Then after 2 weeks, I was like, all right, I'm bored. I need to do something. I'm a worker. Let's go. And then somebody said, why don't you get a job at a temp agency until you figure out what you want to do? Okay, how you find one? They're like, I don't know. So I pulled out the old school yellow pages, bro, and said, Lord, I need help. and went to temporary agencies and found a full-page ad for a temp agency called Help Unlimited. I asked for help, I got Help Unlimited. Sound like a sign. Went in there, took my typing test with them. They placed me. I went on a Monday. They placed me immediately on a Tuesday. I was in another management firm doing this kind of, ancillary work for I think a week or two, and then they sent me to ABC News for a week. And I got to talk to one of the coordinating producers, and I was telling her my story, and she's like, "So you spent time in London, you know it well." I was like, "Oh God, yes, we were all over, because like I said, I know every nook and cranny, and had done everything from the embassies to the Notting Hill Gate Festival." And she's like, "You might be a really good fit to go get one of our journalists because he's packing up because he's been there for months, and now it's time to come home. And so we were thinking of sending somebody, and perhaps you could help with coordination and that." And I was like, "Oh, great," because I wanted to go back from London to London. This was 91, and I had been there in 85. And I was like, "Oh, great." I said, "I want to go back. Here's the opportunity." And she goes, "Oh, okay. So call and confirm it with me on Monday." Oh, and I was I'm getting ready to hang up. She goes, "Oh, there's also a position open at BET." I'm sorry, wait, what? I'm sorry, wait, what? I'm sorry, wait, what? Yeah, I'll take it. I want the BET one. Okay. She goes, "Oh, okay. Wow. I don't care what it was. I didn't know. I didn't care." And so I walked in on Monday to work for Jeffrey K. Lee, the Senior Vice President of Network Operations in his front office. And Deborah Parker Williams said to me, "So I hope you brought your resume because the position you're sitting in is available. And the director of music program is looking for an executive assistant." Now, it's funny because I'm looking at you here, and I guess my Facebook is open behind me, and her picture, because I just bought her new family book, is staring at me as I tell this story. So I gave her my resume and interview with Lydia Cole on Tuesday morning because she was looking for an executive assistant, and I was like, "Okay, this is." I don't know what BET does, like what they do behind the scenes, but I know how to do executive assistant. I know how to do that. So we did a 45-minute interview, and she said to me, after she asked about, how long I've been working, how much I type, what kind of things I done, where I went to school, all this stuff. She said, "So tell me, do you have any questions?" I said, "I only have one. What's your middle name?" She said, "I'm sorry." I said, "God told me that," because her nameplate said Lydia N. Cole. And God told me that if your N stood for Natalie, I'd be working for Lydia Natalie Cole. And Natalie Cole is my favorite singer, so it's a sign I should be here. And I'm like this. She said, "Do you actually believe that?" I said, "Yes, ma'am. That's all I got." She goes, "Wow, okay. So my name is Lydia Natalie Cole." And she said, "And the truth is, when most women get married, their last name becomes their middle initial. So she should have been Lydia J. Cole. But she liked Natalie so much, she kept it when she married Dr. Reginald Cole." And so, that we had a really great interview. And then I ended up being there for maybe a month and then leaving and then coming back in March to be in the legal department with Gordon Bolter. And I was like, wait, I wonder why I never heard from Ms. Cole. It seemed like we really got along. And so I go to see her and say, "Can I have a minute with you?" And she said, and I said, "You hadn't asked me for my references." So I wrote them all down and gave it to her. She said, "I want to be honest with you. I went up front to ask about why you, what they thought about you, why you work for me." I said, and she said, and one of the women said that you spent too much time doodling. I said, "Well, did she tell you I was doodling?" Because the report she gave me that would do at the end of the day, I often turned in before lunch. She wasn't prepared for that, so she didn't have a next thing. And so I found myself reading magazines. I found myself studying because I was at work, and so I was trying to find ways to busy myself. I said, "But I assure you, call any of my references. If there's work to be done, I do it. It's what I do." And so, she said, "You know what, Kevin, I'm going to bet on you. Welcome to BET." And so that's Lydia Natalie Cole is the reason I walked into BET as her executive assistant. And, and then my life made sense, bro, because I've been one of those people who collected old Jets, old Ebony's, old Right-Ons, Black All-Stars, Sepia, just if our faces were on it, especially being in the library, you know what I mean? I'd be in there to reference, like, look, all these Black magazines. Because sometimes in the store, all you knew about was Ebony and Jet. You had to go to the magazine section of the library to see all these things. So it all made sense. So I remember one of the first things I did was to was to just kind of organize stuff, you know. And so I remember. So this is March '91, and I remember like taking 3 hip hop video CDs down to the mailroom. I was like, I need a file cabinet. And the dude was like, so you're gonna have to order it. It's gonna take about 2 weeks. I was like, I need it now. And so I did this triage of these kind of big 3, whatever 3 popular artists were out at the time. And he's like, man, you telling me if I get you a file cabinet, I can have any one of those? I said, bring it upstairs by lunch, you can have all 3 of them. You know, the music department has so much weight, so much heat. So I gave them to her, and I promise you, the daggone file cabinet beat me to my desk. And then Lydia had the same conversation with me. That was, you know, first she said to me in March, she said, so we, you know, the raises that we do, because she's like, I know you're gonna have to take a pay loss to be here, but and the raises that we do are August, but it's for a 9-month period before that, and you're gonna have to wait till next year. But I promise you, we'll have this conversation again. And then the first thing I did, bro, was I'm there and I was like, so what we doing for Black Music Month? And they were like, what? I asked that question. I was like, what we doing for Black Music Month? They were like, got any ideas? I was like, let's do Diva Week. You know, let's bring in our heavy hitters and have them sit down with Donnie and get their flowers and, you know, and get their honor where it's due, because they don't get that on 60 Minutes. They don't get that on these other shows. They might get, you know, they might get it on Arsenio, but, you know, unless the record label has a good record out, we don't have anything to honor them like that. So June of '91, we brought in, so Aretha Franklin wouldn't travel because she wouldn't fly. Natalie Cole had just released Unforgettable, so she was on the road. But we brought in Diana Ross, Shaka Khan, Patti LaBelle, Gladys Knight, and then my big like tour de force accomplishment was convincing my boss that Phyllis Hyman should have been on the diva list. And you know, the way DC was in the spring, summer out of Wolf Trap, you know, that was the time when it was time to do shows. And so Phyllis was a DC staple. And so she and her husband and I went to Wolf Trap to see Phyllis Hyman in concert. And Phyllis Hyman tore that place up. And she's singing Living All Alone. And in the middle of Living All Alone, she does this whistle bridge, you know, but she's just mic and just killing it. And at one point, I put my hands on my mouth and said, call the birds home, woman. And everybody laughed. And she was like, yeah, let's book her. And I was like, God, I'm an assistant. And now a whole week of programming on Video Soul, I helped do it, you know. So, and then like the next year, she, you know, I think maybe later that year, she was like, I feel like I'm gonna lose you. No. It was probably the beginning of '92. She's like, I feel like I'm gonna lose you. I don't. So I'm just bored because, you know, my little brain has always been working. So I typed 104 words a minute. So there was just a lot that I could get done. You know, she used to come to my desk and I'd be like, huh? She's like, how are you doing that? So my brain is also able to kind of take in facts by paragraph. So when I heard her coming, I just took the next paragraph in, and so I could keep going. Because, you know, when you live in the projects in a 2-bedroom apartment with a mother and 3 brothers, you know, when you're trying to study, your brother's like, I ain't touching you. I ain't touching you. You just learn to focus. And so she said, you know, I feel like I'm losing you. And she's like, so what is it going to take to keep you? And I was like, I saw this job description for the music researcher and record label liaison. You know, I want this job because everything in there, you know. And then she said, well, we haven't hired that job, you know, as you see, because they were concerned about payola and getting videos in and get people slipping you money and getting the playlist out to people in advance. And I was like, but I do this job already. Assistant, don't you see that? Everything on here, I already do. So if you trust me to do this, then this is the same thing and I'd still be reporting to you. And she's like, what? You're not? Okay. And went to her boss and got me a huge raise. And then I went from executive assistant to the director of music programming to the BET's music researcher and record label liaison. And so that's when, you know, all of that sepia and all of that stuff made sense. Because I assembled files on everybody. Like literally all those magazines that probably at some sort of point for the culture could have been like historical, for me were needed. So I was tearing magazine. Here's a Janet Jackson file. Here's Mike. Here's O'Brien. Here's, you know, Sherelle. But you know, because it was just kind of people were reading to see what was in the new Billboard or what they put in the bio. But I was like, they have conversations in Right On and in Jet that are deeper, that are richer. And so we need to have all of those. And so, you know, I tore up my whole magazine collection because now it made sense. Because I wasn't keeping them for history's sake. I was keeping them for culture's sake. Hello?
Mhm.
And so, you know, that became, you know, Donnie started to pay attention. And then Lydia, Miss Cole went on maternity leave. And the woman who came in, Cindy Mahmood, called me into her office because she said, so we've got an interview scheduled with Natalie Cole because we couldn't get her during the Unforgettable tour because she literally released the album and went on a 2-year world tour. So she wanted to make sure she got to BET with the new album. And she said, and so go home and write questions. I was like, go home and write questions for my favorite singer since I was 11? Are you crazy? And so she called me into her office the next day and goes, Natalie Cole was the first Black artist to be Best New Artist. Mm-hmm. Natalie Cole was, Natalie won Best Album of the Year for Unforgettable. That was the first for a Black woman. Aretha never won it. Roberta never won it. No, first one. She was like, okay. Natalie had a degree in psychology and a minor in German. She was going to be a doctor. What? Okay. She said, I've decided who's doing the interview. I was like, this is going to be nice. It's going to be Natalie and Donnie Simpson, brown skin, light eyes, cameras on the right angles. This is going to be great. And she said, you. And I was like, wait, what? What are you talking about? I don't understand. And I was like, this is not how this happened. I said, for what show? She said, create it. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? This is not how this happened. She says, it's how, let me see how Cindy Mahmood worded. She said, it's how it's going to happen for you. We can teach you the technical stuff, but this, you have something. You have something that I think is something. And so, you know, under the tutelage and mentorship of Billy Woodruff, I became a producer. Like I sat down with, when I showed up at the Sheridan Peninsula to interview Natalie Cole. Natalie Cole knew Kevin E. Taylor, the fan that had written her every year, sent report cards and told her how much I loved her and how much I loved each new album. So she's thinking BET let me come see the interview. Then she said, so who's doing the interview? Who's doing the interview? I said, me. And she said, oh, hell no. And I was like, oh my God, she's saying, I'm not good enough. What? Oh my God, oh my God. And then she saw it on my face. She's like, no, Kevin, I'm saying, oh hell no, because you have forgotten more about me than I'll ever remember. I was like, what? Oh, that's easy. I was like, I'll walk you through your career. And she looked over the makeup artist. Did you hear him? He said he's gonna walk me through my career. And that is this. That's June 16th, 1993 at the Sheridan Peninsula Hotel, the first interview that I did for a series called Lyrically Speaking. Lyrically, you know, we'll talk about that, but Lyrically Speaking, Natalie begat Luther, Luther begat Lena, Anita, Lena, Anita, Stevie, Patty, and the last episode of it was 3 years later when I flew to Germany and then to Denmark to interview Tina Turner.
Man, some heavy hitters. And you mentioned Phyllis Hyman earlier. Now, people, look up vocals, any vocal of Phyllis Hyman. She was no joke vocally. She could sing literally a Burger King jingle and make you want to go get a Whopper with cheese.
But she did. Hello. Look, I can't throw away my Isotona gloves because Phyllis Hyman did the thing and she, Isotona, they tuck you in like a second skin. I hear that when I put my Isotona gloves on and they might be 20 years old, but they still together. And I was like, they connect me to Phyllis. I swear to you.
Yeah, your Natalie Cole story of you interviewing her was the same way for me when I got a chance to interview Donnie Simpson. I grew up looking at Video Soul since I was a child, recorded the top 20 countdown, saying one day I'm going to be like Donnie Simpson. So he was still on WPGC at the time. And I ended up calling his people and saying, hey, I am a college student. I have a radio show. I want to interview Donnie. And they were like, okay, the only time he can do an interview is right after his morning show. So literally, don't sue me, UNCG. I skipped a class so that I can interview Donnie Simpson. I'm like, I'm not missing this opportunity for nobody because this man got me to where I want to be. And to have the chance to interview him, I'm not passing it up. So I skipped my English 101 class so I could interview Donnie Simpson.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Donnie Simpson is a very, very good dude. I just saw it. We just did a BET reunion right after Thanksgiving. And Donnie that's a good dude. Yeah, I'll tell you later. So, you know, Donnie left They ended up ending Video Soul, and there wasn't a real proper goodbye for Donnie as far as I was concerned. And so I got to do a show called Notarized, which was the original episode of Notarized was Notarized the top 20 videos of the 20th century. So it was all the music videos, and our big deal in all of the promotion was that, and the number one video is not Thriller. And people were like, what? How could that be? Da, 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 da. And so one of the things that I was called to do in this 12-hour show, 12 hours, is that Stephen Hill, who had come in from by this time, and this is 99, would come in from MTV, was like, so it's going to be an hour of Cedar, and an hour of Paul Porter, and an hour with Tigger, and an hour with It's from the Street, and an hour with Eliza Michelle from All, and an hour with Rachel from Caribbean Rhythms, and an hour with Sherry Carter. And I was like, yeah. Here's my concern, and this is just one of these producer moments where where you have to trust your gut. What my gut said to me is, well, what if somebody doesn't like somebody? What if they don't like Cedar? What if they don't like Eliza Michelle? What if they don't like hits? They turn away for an hour, they're gone. There's too many things out there to distract them. So the way, my God, and I ended up being at work for 3 days in a row. You hear me? People were bringing me meals, driving by at midnight to check on me because I had to choreograph this 12-hour format that included Cedar introducing the video and coming out, and it was Rachel. And then, Rachel tossed two lines of it, then they tossed the hits, and then we go to the video, and it was just kind of like, so I need, I had to dispatch teams, and I was like, I need you to do, 192, 93, 193, 92, 70, you know what I mean? It was madness, but it came out masterfully. And then I thought, yo, this is my opportunity to give Donnie Simpson his props. So while the other hosts for the 11 hours, I think it was 11, moved all over, Donnie got the top 10 by himself. So I was like, Donnie, because I had the same rivers. Donnie, I know that things may not have ended well, but I want you to come back for the show and tell me, sir, what it would take. And he was like, I remember working with you. If you want me to come back, I was like, no, Mr. Simpson, tell me what it would take. Do I have to get you a Gucci suit? Do I have to get you a designer suit from Everett Hall, your favorite designer? Do we owe you $10,000 as a stipend? Tell me what it's going to cost. He was like, Kevin Feet, Mr. Simpson, I have to get a suit, don't I, sir? I have to send a limousine for you, don't I, sir? He's like, oh. He said, okay. He said, how about you tell me what you're going to compensate me with? And so we got the suit made from Everett Hall, his favorite designer. I don't know, they worked out what they paid him. We built his own set. But then we did like promos of like all the employees lined up on the stairwell. Down in DC that you came in through the basement to security. We lined up all the team through and they came to Donnie. Somebody handed him their baby and he kissed it. It was like, this is the return of a legend and you should be treated as such. So I felt like I got the opportunity to give Donnie Simpson his proper due, and especially because Stephen Hill had come up, Stephen came in from MTV. I don't know how I felt about him. I don't know how I felt about the MTV. I don't care. I don't know how I felt about any of it until he told me what he had in mind for the number one video. And he was like, so Kevin, get this. The number one video is not a music video. It's Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech recorded on video. And I was like, oh my God, that's genius. So that's the only moment in the show where I brought everybody back is everybody tossed to Donnie, said something about music video, the culture, leading up to Donnie saying the number one music video is not a music video at all, but rather a moment in history captured in video. And it was powerful because Donnie got that last read in, so it hits about 11, quarter, so no, the show went from 11 to 11. So about, 10:40, people were in parties and in clubs around the globe. And there were people who wrote us letters saying that the DJ stopped the music to turn up the screen because a lot of people hadn't seen Dr. King's I Had a Dream speech, which is not the 2 or 3, minutes you might think you heard, or the 40 seconds, I have a dream. It's 8 minutes and 43 seconds. And most people had never in any school or in any opportunity seen the whole thing. So the world stopped to watch Donnie do the intro and then to watch the full I Have a Dream speech. And the ratings were huge. I just felt like, you know, it was, I couldn't have had a greater honor than to give Donnie Simpson the honor he was due, especially to be attached to that moment in history that we knew was going to be dynamic.
Right, and a big congratulations to Donnie on getting inducted into the Radio Hall of Fame. So
Radio Hall of Fame.
Big up to Donnie for that. And also at this same time in DC, we have a radio station out of Howard University, WHUR, which gave birth to a format that you still hear on Urban AC today, the Quiet Storm, which was started by Mr. Melvin Lindsay, who was on the green scene. Now, can you tell me about the impact of WHUR, Melvin Lindsay, and the Quiet Storm, and Miss Kathy Hughes?
No, the level of impact that Quiet Storm has is not a thing you can really talk about, because Melvin gave birth to a format that resurrected careers, that gave birth to giants, that took artists who were signed but left on back shelves, who might not have had opportunities, and made them megastars like Luther Vandross and Anita Baker. Luther Vandross's House Is Not a Home got so big on Quiet Storm, and it's 6 minutes. I'm sorry, not House Is Not a Home, Superstar, Until You Come Back to Me. That first from the first album. That song was 6 minutes and 11 seconds of a lush ballad that was supposed to be relegated to Quiet Storm, but Quiet Storm was such an institution that people used to record that block and play it on other formats. That people used to record that and keep it on their headsets. And that song got so big that they started to play it in daytime. You know what I mean? And other Melvin Lindsay, you know, again, he resurrected careers. Melvin Lindsay made babies with that format. Melvin Lindsay and Quiet Storm and Kathy Hughes, the Titan that gave us TV One. Kathy Hughes that gave us a black talk format. Kathy Hughes over here in the black talk format would do it. Kathy Hughes over here with TV One. Kathy Hughes over here, and the ways that, you know, she believed in black culture so deeply that, you know, that she's still in it to win it today. There is no talking about the Quiet Storm in a way that would make sense to some people, because it's such an is. You know what I'm saying? The Quiet Storm format is such an is that it's on radio stations in Mobile, Alabama, and Fayetteville, North Carolina, and Denver, Colorado, and Portland, Oregon, founded in DC on Black romance music. You know, the Anita Baker called it fireside love songs. You know what I mean? That you would not only hear songs, but you heard the whole introduction, and they let it fade so you could hear all that stuff that used to make you smush your headsets to your ears. Quiet Storm made you think you were grown, right? It made you want to be grown and to grow. You wanted to be able to have dinner in your own place with somebody, to the point that all you had to do is just put on Quiet Storm and light some candles, and the music would do the rest.
Now, if you're of the
it wasn't just sex, you know what I mean? It would do the rest. It would set atmosphere. It would help conversation. It would allow you to slow dance and get away the nerves. Quiet Storm it's culture.
Mm-hmm. It's like that nice alley-oop that set you up for a dunk. Now, if you're of the preteen or teen variety, you thought you were doing something if you got your love dedication either played back or they read your letter. Dear DJ so-and-so, I like to dedicate Ready for the World, Let Me Love You Down to my boyfriend, John. We've been going together for about 6 months. We met in Miss
Harris's class, and yeah.
And I would like to let him know that I like him. So can you play this record for me? It would really make my night. Signed, blah, blah, blah. Well, we're going to go ahead and get that record for you and follow that up with some
with his beautiful elocution. We're going to dedicate this to Mimi and Hakeem. love you down.
Right, right. And you mentioned Dewey Hughes. Now, for those of you that don't know, go look at the movie Talk to Me with Don
Talk to
Cheadle,
me.
Taraji P. Henson, Chedway Ejiofor, and you'll learn about Mr. Petey Green, who his show, Petey Green's Washington, was one of the early staples on BET in its infancy.
And quite the precursor to people like Howard Stern,
who also appeared on there. Yep, Howard Stern appeared on Petey Green's Washington as well, but Petey Green, forefather of the shock jock.
Yeah.
His story definitely very well told in that movie, which is directed by, I believe, Kazi Lemons.
Yeah, Kazi Lemons. Yeah, great woman.
Yeah, she did Eve's Bayou, and I think she was in Fear of a Black Hat, which is underrated to me, better than CB4. Shout out to Rusty Cundiff. Don't at me. Fear of a Black Hat, better than CB4. NWH. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But the one thing about BET that I really loved was that it really took current events, made it relatable to kids, preteens, and teens of our age, with Teen Summit. Because I really wanted to be a posse member, even though I wasn't in DC. It made me just want to say, hey, can I go sit beside Ananda or a Demu and just give my take on something? Because, it was a hot show where you had kids talking about issues that affected them of the day, and you had the hottest young artists at the time giving their hot performances. So can you tell me about the impact of Teen Summit and what BT brought to the game as far as that?
Teen Summit, so there was so many things that happened on BET and then MTV, or MTV and then BET, Yo MTV Raps, Rap City, 106 in Park, TRL. It was just, Teen Summit was BET's megastar because it was a thing that didn't exist anywhere else. And what was so impactful about Teen Summit is, they handled everything. They talked about drugs and sex and sexuality. They talked about death and dying. They talked about everything, and they didn't ask any of the young people in the audience to play dumb. So the posse, like you said, it gave young people permission to have a voice and a perspective. And so you combine this opportunity to talk about everything with great hosts, Ananda, Lisa Johnson Smith, Prince Dejour, Adimo Colon, On Jam Fran, hello, my good friend Dr. Fran Edwards. You can combine all of that rich kind of lead in and these brilliant young people, and then the breaks that they got to take in the conversation then introduced you to Escape, introduced you to Usher, introduced you to, Chris Cross. And it's like, yeah, Teen Summit, kicking the truth to the young Black youth was literally that. It was this visual magazine that gave young people permission to stop and pay attention, stop and engage, to have a point of view, to feel like they could go to their parents and talk about stuff because they got real information about it before they dove in. And so, yeah, Teen Summit was a thing that I wished the culture hadn't gotten so distracted that there were things that we would toss away, like Teen Summit and BET News, and it was like, oh, I can get that somewhere else. It's like, no, we needed to be getting that from ourselves, doing that for ourselves. Right. Teen Summit is a thing that could come back right now and still be brilliant.
Right, and bring back Emerge in YSB magazine.
You can't bring it back because almost all magazines are going away now. But I think there's a way it should be coming back in all of these formats. If it's, if it's just a digital magazine, if it's a visual magazine, a virtual one, all of the stuff has got to come back. And I hope that stuff is, that just like always happens, that everything old is new again, and that we have a moment, you're seeing it in a lot of ways that people are starting certain YouTube channels and having certain conversations that, perhaps we'll see a day soon when all of the, those kinds of things come back around. My concern, is that young people are so distracted with social media and trying to be stars that I don't know that we could assemble a posse, but I'd sure like to try.
Right. Now, what led you to the calling of becoming a pastor?
Man, I'm gonna shout again. So 2000 found me in New York to help move with BET to create. I was a senior producer of series and specials. So I oversaw Midnight Love, BET Next. I can't remember, a couple of other shows, and then I was, any specials we had. The first thing I did that we did on the 106 in Park set was a Back to Basics special with Boyz II Men. So, I moved from Capitol Hill house in my DC life where I was born and raised to Harlem. 106 in Park was our address. 110th and 3rd was my address. So I could walk to work and walk through all that richness every day. And I thought, wow, what a great opportunity. What a great opportunity. What a big life. And I've been blessed that my adult best friend, Celeste is my college best friend, and my best friend, David Jackson, had moved from Chicago to work for Scholastic or the Girl Scouts. I can't remember which one he came there to work for first. So he was able to come to New York the month before I did. So he found an apartment. So, people that struggle to move to New York, it's crazy real. But he found us a 2-bedroom spot at, 110th and 3rd. So I didn't have to do anything except pack the food from my refrigerator in one suitcase and a week's worth of clothes in the next one. Because literally, I think I got days notice when we realized we were good. It took a while to sign the 106 in Park physical deal, then to decide who was going. So I literally might have gotten days notice. You go, and so doing 106 in Park, doing specials, AM at BET. So I take very great pride in owning and honoring that before the world met Laz Alonso as an actor, he was the host of AM at BET, our morning show, and I was his producer director. And so, it's always good to, I flourish. I scream at seeing how he's flourished. And so we're doing all of that stuff, and I'm still doing Access Granted. And so, jumping on video sets and stuff and such and such. And so in January of 2001, thank you for this opportunity to set the record straight. In January of 2001, the bishop, my archbishop, who and our presiding prelate, who lives in Los Angeles, California, was on the East Coast because we've got most of our churches in this 20 church denomination are from upstate New York to Georgia or on the East Coast, and so he would come from December through January and travel his way down preaching. And so he'd come to our Newark, New Jersey church where I am right now, saying, and he preached, and then he called me he called me that Monday night. No, he called me that Sunday night. He called me that Sunday night and said, "Son, the Lord has commissioned to work in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And I'm the executive assistant. I'm the indispensable second hand, second in command. And so I'm thinking he's calling me because he wants me to know that somebody's being called to New Brunswick to start the new church, and he wants me to help him." He said, "So, son, the Lord has commissioned a new work in New Brunswick, New Jersey." Okay. And he's called you to lead it. Wait, what? And so January 27th of 2001, I had my first Bible study in a home in Teaneck, New Jersey, because we hadn't even found a place in New Brunswick yet. As founding pastor, I got to go find I got to go find the church that I founded. And so we are in, so simultaneously at this time, senior supervising producer of series and specials for BET, and then pastor in this central New Jersey college town, because New Brunswick is where Rutgers' main campus is. And so I'm doing that, doing Bible study and church and back and forth. We found a space downtown and I'm like, I could find balance in this. I could find balance in this. I could find balance in this. And so everything's going to be all right. And then in August of 2001, I'm called by Penny McDonald, who's the creative director for BET, and she tells me that we are doing an access granted for Aaliyah's Rock the Boat. Oh, okay. And so you're going to Miami, and then you're going to the Bahamas for 2 days. Oh, okay. And Aaliyah comes on the 106 in Park on Tuesday. I go in the green room and say, "Hey, I'm your producer for access granted. I'm going to join you in Miami. I'll already be there. I just wanted you to know my face, so when you see my face and my crew, it's me." And She says, so you have to come up with a little something, because at the time she was secretly dating Damon Dash. And so, the video is a video, her life is her life. So she's like, we need to come up with something so that we can know when it's time to stop rolling the camera. And I was like, okay. So I was like, how about this? So anywhere, if you see him, just do that. Do your hand up like that. Just do that. And that's kind of like, and scene and close. You know what I mean? And so she goes, oh, that's good. I like that. And we hug and then, make our way to Miami on Thursday. And if you go back, you've been tossing people to these other things. If you go online and watch the Access Granted Rock the Boat, when Aaliyah walks in and goes, oh, hey, she's talking to me. Oh, hey, let's go. Time to make the video, And we go in behind her. We shot all day in Miami, that night in the University of Miami underwater, and then flew to the Bahamas. While we were at the pool in Miami, Gina Smith, who was with Aaliyah's record label, comes to me and says, Kevin, I need to ask a favor. I know I promised you complete access, but you know what Access Granted looks like. So they had me on the plane with Aaliyah and her team, and I was like, I wouldn't be shooting on the plane. We don't do that. There's enough to do with the hair and makeup and choreography and meeting all the pieces and parts that it'd be cool to shoot on the plane, but I don't see it, you know what I mean? And then you get to the, when we got to the plane, I knew we wouldn't have been able to do it. But at the time, she said, I need you to just take a separate flight. Y'all make sure you get there before her. If you want to catch her plane landing and all of that. I was like, oh, that's great, but I don't want to be on a plane with her. And so Gina Smith, Thursday night, wrote the changing of my itinerary by hand. It was that last minute. And so if you haven't figured out yet, I was supposed to be on the plane with Aaliyah. That took her life. And because Gina Smith, who also died on that plane, changed my itinerary, I did not. And that was a whirlwind of emotion I can't even explain, because when people talk about what it feels like to be close to death, they think you're being dramatic, but if it weren't, literally, it was a shift of a pen. Gina was like, change flights. Okay, I'm cool. Changed my flight, took the last shot of, Aaliyah, Eric, Chris Maldonado, makeup artist, is a friend of mine, Eric Foreman, Anthony Dodd. Oh, that's Scott Gallen. Oh, there's a shot of all these people who are her team going to get on the plane and going to get on the catamaran and then go pack and leave and they get on a plane where they die. And I happened to have a shot of all of that because that was her family, that was her team, that was people who were close to her. Gina Smith might have been in the shot. Douglas Krantz from Virgin was not. He wasn't on the boat. He was the number crunch, but had moments and all of that shooting with each of them. And then land in Baltimore because the reason I was excited about leaving, I was going to leave Aaliyah, and then I had to fly to Miami and then to Baltimore because that Sunday morning I had to preach. And two of my deacons were going to drive down from Jersey, meet me in Baltimore, and then that's how I was going to get home. And so get to Baltimore Saturday night. They meet me. We check into the hotel, go to a steakhouse to get some Italian restaurant to get some food. Get back to our hotel room, open the door, and my phone rings, and it's Penny. I think it was Diane Blankenship first. It was from the label. She's like, "Hey, have you talked to the people from the?" And I was like, "No, I just landed and just really just getting settled." And she goes, I was like, "What's wrong? You never called after a shoot?" She's like, "Yeah, there's talk." And I was like, "Okay." One of the things that happened early on in social media was always somebody had died. Every week, they had killed off somebody else, and then they'd have to come out and say, "Hey, not dead." And then my phone rang again, maybe 10 minutes later, and it was Penny McDonald. And she's like, "Yeah, there's talk everywhere that the plane had crashed." But Penny's like, "Wait, what are you doing? Because according to arrangements she made, I'm on that plane." So she's like, "Oh, I was like, "No, Penny, they asked me to change my flight." She's like, "Oh." So I was like, "Yeah, I've been here since 6 o'clock. They didn't take off till 6. She's like, "Oh, damn." And I was like, wait. So now I'm shook, right? So I go to kind of have a private prayer moment. I was like, "Okay, God, what's happening?" Then my phone rings again, and it's my mother. The number is my mother. When I answer, the voice is not my mother. Somebody says, "One moment for your mother." And I was like, so somebody picked up my mama's phone to call me and then heard my voice and was like, "Yeah." And she said, "Baby, you all right?" "Yeah, they said that girl you were with." I said, wait, what? Wait, what? So we turned on the news and there was nothing for a period, but I could feel that it was not right. And so I laid down and just kind of took a break. And when somebody, one of my deacons tapped me on my shoulder, when I lifted my head, it said Aaliyah Dana Haughton, 1979, 2001. Then I had to go, then I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. It's very interesting because there were no details yet. Then they said something happened. Then I was like, oh no, the plane crashed and it's Aaliyah. And then I got up the next morning, went to Baltimore, the Unity Fellowship Church, Baltimore, to preach. And then after the service, went outside and my phone rang. It was Penny McDonald. And this is where the world went from spinning to the world being pulled from under me, because Penny says, so. I'm like, so? The list is Aaliyah, Anthony Dodd, Eric Foreman, Christopher Maldonado, Gina Smith, Scott Gallen, Douglas Krantz, and the pilot. I was like, and I collapsed in the street. And somebody was like, what's wrong? Because when celebrities die, no matter the tragedy, they focus on the celebrity. When Kobe died, it took there was Kobe and his daughter, and then they had to kind of, and 7 other people, and hear their names and hear their stories. It was the same kind of way. And so, get immediately in the car to get back to BET to 106 and Park. For some reason, even though that service was over at like 4 or 5 o'clock, bruh, it took like if you've ever driven 95 from DC to New York on a Sunday, it can be a jungle. It can be like watching paint dry. For whatever reason, that journey that should have been 3 hours took 7, 8 hours. I mean, it just was, so we had to pull off twice and just kind of get gas and get some air because it was just stupid. And then I get to 106 and Park and I'm like, okay, here's the footage. And Stephen Hill, everybody was there. Sunday night at midnight, it might as well have been Tuesday at 12 o'clock, Tuesday at 12:30 in the afternoon. And Stephen looked me in the eye and he said, Kevin, listen to me. It would take a producer hours to look through the footage to see what they need to find. And it's already in your head. You have to look at this footage to give us clips. And I was like, come on. So literally they assigned somebody to me to rub my back and blow my nose while I'm watching footage of people who are dead that I had just spent 3 days with. So you asked how it became, so I'm already past it, because people thought it was after that I became past it. It was already that. Then that happened in August. There's all this crazy madness. I know what it feels like to have paparazzi outside your door and driving past you on the street taking pictures. I know what it's like for people to be giving out your phone numbers and the numbers to some journalist who's trying to get a quote. And then, then there's the funeral. The family invites me to the funeral. Go to the funeral, and it's horrible because it's a bunch of famous people, but they're all crying. So my brain was just kind of like, where am I? That, there's there's Monica, there's Jay-Z, there's Timbaland, there's Genuine, there's Missy Elliott, there's Monica. Why are they all crying? Because my brain, and it's just too much. And even Stephen Hill and Kelly G are walking beside me, and I have to greet her mother and her brother and her father, and that was just the most painful thing, because like her mother touched my face because I was close to her more recently than she was. You know what I mean? Her father was ailing, so he couldn't stand it. So I got on my knees to talk to her. Her brother, Rashad, just fell into me, and I had to just hold him because, again, I had been with her. So then it's like, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here because it was too. And then, walking down the street, and Stephen Hill and Kelly G get beside me. Steve's like, Kevin, how you doing? I was like, it's a lot. It's a lot. And he's like, you mean it's a lot? You're doing some interviews. You know what I mean? It was like that. And then the paparazzi were like, Kevin, how are you feeling? And he was like, oh, crap. And they pushed me in the cab and they got it on either side. And Steve was like, why didn't you tell me it was this crazy? I said, I tried to tell you. You weren't listening to me, because I guess he didn't think the death of Aaliyah would become the thing it became, And so they gave me, that was kind of the Friday of the week after she had passed, after that weekend. And they gave me the next week off where I was just kind of like, what happened? And then the following week, so that's end of August, first week of September, the following week, the following Tuesday, following Monday, I go to work at Penny McDonald. Says, Kevin, you ready to go back? How are you feeling? And I'm trying I'm trying to feel how I'm supposed to feel because I wasn't on the plane. I was supposed to be, but I wasn't. So it's like, yeah, I'm ready to go back to work. I can't like let this shake me. I don't know what to do with it. But so my brain is scrambled. I was like, yes, let's get back to it. And so she said, so we got access granted with DMX for Who We Be. Dana. That song was fire. My mother, my father, I love her, I hate her. You know what I mean? And then there was a song called Goodbye by Jagged Edge that they were doing access granted for. So the trip would be plentiful. We would get 2 specials out of it going to LA. And so she says, well, let me, I work with travel, we'll make the arrangements. Then she calls me late Monday afternoon saying they got you flying out of Newark and you live in Harlem. That just is stupid because you have to drive longer through the city to get to the airport than if they just had you come out of LaGuardia. So she's like, stay at your desk until I can change your arrangements. Change my arrangements. She calls me 6 o'clock, go home, rest. You're leaving in the morning. You're going to LA. So the next morning, on Tuesday, September 11th, 2001, I got on a plane, a United Airlines flight. I think I was on a United flight because they were flying out of LaGuardia with mid-air, where somewhere over mid-country, because we land in Kansas, they tell us there's been a terroristic threat against American Airlines. And I'm thinking, oh, they mean American Airlines, the airline, the company. And then we realized that they're talking about all domestic flights when they put us down and the cars are parking the planes are parking like cars on a parking lot. Like, get down anywhere, get the people off the plane. And then get into the terminal. And thankfully, one of my friends who used to work at BET, Rob Sellers, who's doing stage management on all your favorite award shows and stuff, he and his team from CBS had just done the Michael Jackson 30-year concert, a huge one at Madison Square Garden. The team was on my plane and they apparently were getting in SUVs to drive from Kansas City to LA. It would take us a couple of days, but that's what they did. And Rob found me in the airport. But before he found me, my mom called and it was like 2 calls got through. Penny, who freaked out because my name is on the manifest from Newark. That's the plane they hit, Tower 2. 18 days apart, a plane I was supposed to be on is gone. But I'm not on the plane because she took me out of LaGuardia. So Penny freaked out. She's like, I can't send you out of hell. So I was like, well, why not? I'm okay. And then my mother called and said, let's pray. And I fell to my knees in the middle of the terminal. And I promise you, about 50, 75 people went to their knees with me. They ain't know. And I was like, yes, ma'am, let's go. I put my mother on speaker. She prayed. I got up. And as I was getting up, Rob Sellers was like, hey, Kev, we driving to LA. You want to come? We got 1 seat left. You want to come? Come with us. And that journey, and you asked about like how it got me to pastor. I'm already pastor. The journey was hearing God tell me it was time to leave BET. Like it was time to stop doing this job, as a daily thing because God needed more. And I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, what am I doing Monday through Friday? What am I doing for Monday? What am I doing? I came up here for BET and driving through the Rocky Mountains. Everybody had gone to sleep and I'm doing the driving at like sunrise. So it's me literally having to drive like this, bro. Whew. And then tears flowing, snot flowing, and the sun coming up. And God goes, you're going to figure this out, but I need you. And that became what really started to happen after I got back after 9/11. Conversations started to happen at work, with coworkers, at work, with celebrities, at work, with people going, oh my God, I heard about, but I knew about Aaliyah. Who was the dude that was on the plane on 9/11? That was also me. Let's pray. Like, I remember going to Maxwell's dressing room. We went into prayer. I was like, yeah, it's probably getting ready to step back from the industry for a while. I know that would be almost a decade, but it was everywhere. I was in file rooms and edit suites and in elevators with label execs, and people were like, there's some sort of calling on your life, bro. So listen, just pray with me, And so for, that was September, October, November, December, January, and then it just started to get louder and louder. And one day I went to take my check, to put it in my bank 3 blocks away. And I looked at it kind of like, okay. And the scripture, what profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? Just scrolled across the check, not the amount. And I was like, oh God. And God was like, yep, it's time to go. And then I was like, I didn't understand it. And the way God got me to hear. And God said, what else do you need? Son, I've given you Natalie Cole. I've given you shows and formats and awards and plaques. You know, look at that. I've given you plaques, and you think that you should see this wall. You know what I mean? The Natalie Cole wall is over. Where's Natalie? The Natalie Cole wall is over there. You've gotten everything you could imagine, personal letters and photos, and look at that. That's me and Anita Baker. That's me and Tina. I said, what else do you do? What else do you need? And I was like, I need you. I was like, oh God. And I went to talk to Penny McDonald about it. And she was like, Kevin, we get ready to move to the CBS building. And I was hoping you could help to kind of, with the move. And I was like, okay, I'll just stay till the move. I'll stay till the move. So I'm saying to myself. And then I go to talk to her the next morning. And while we are in she said, I need you to stay till the move is over. Then while we're in her office talking, Stephen Hill comes on the intercom and says, I know there's been talk about us moving from here 106 and Park to the CBS building. That move is not going to happen. So she was saying, wait until the move happens. The move ain't gonna happen. So she's like, that's the sign you asking for. So I have to let you go. I have to let you go because you've asked to leave. And I'm trying to give you a point where you leave and that point ain't happening. So, okay. She said, you asked God for a sign, that's it. I'm not gonna block it. So I hugged her, and while we were hugging, Stephen Hill came back on and said, okay, the move is back on. She said, that was just a gap to let you in, to let you out. You got to go. And so I literally went from, everyday producer at BET at 106 and Park, living at 110th and 3rd to sitting at home like, okay, Lord, so how do I run a church, in central New Jersey from Spanish Harlem? And tried to do that for a year and then ended up moving into Newark because Newark was a solid central space because I could hop on the PATH train back into the city. I could hop on the New Jersey Transit down to New Brunswick to the church, and I could hop on the Amtrak and get back to BET and in DC where my family was. So then I'm trying to do all that for a year. Then I moved down to New Brunswick where I pastored for 12 years, and then we ended up bringing the New Jersey churches together. And so I've been back in Newark since 2012.
Wow. Your testimony, man.
Yeah.
But God. I'm just gonna say but that. But God.
Brother, when I tell you, King, when I tell you, what the overwhelmingness of the look on people's face when they, hey, weren't you? Bryant Gumbel, renowned journalist, and I had we met when he interviewed me on his show after the Aaliyah tragedy. I saw him again at a party after 9/11. He goes, how you doing, man? And I was like, so I was on flight, United flight, such and such and such and such on September 11th. He was like, what the? He was like, man, what are you supposed to be doing? Because something's trying to tell you something. So it became that with everybody. It was kind of like, bruh, there's something on you. It's, I don't know what this is. And then so, I ended up quitting. God was like, I need you to step back. I need you to step back. I need you. So being in Newark gave me enough central. I would go down to DC to do projects. I was still, I got called in to do a telethon, so they were like, we still need you. But God was like, I just need to free you up to change lanes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. God's trying to tell you something. Like in the cope, God's trying to tell you something. And sometimes God can use situations or people to get you to that ultimate purpose, to that ultimate step,
And again, the fact that, because, it got hard because my nephew said at one point, he said, oh my God, Uncle Kevin, it's like your final destination. It's like, well, I want y'all to be clear that God didn't kill all those people on that plane and take this plane down just to get my attention. God already had my attention, right? God was the one that said, agree with her and get on another flight. Don't ride in your ego, Listen to Penny when Penny says, yeah, you can't be flying out of Newark. That's just too far for you living at you'd be an hour, on the wrong time in the morning, it would be 3 hours getting out of New York City. So it was, it wasn't like God was plucking down people and buildings to get my attention. It was when God said, what else do you require? I remember, bro, it was the simplest moment. Brandy walked on to the set of 106 and Park. Well, not on the set. She walked into 106 and Park with her baby on her hip. And I had met Brandy at 12 years old. you like my album? Talking to my boss's office while her mom and my boss were talking. And, she came around the corner, baby, and she went, Uncle Kevin. I was like, yep, time to go, right? I don't want to be here long enough to be uncle to the celebrities. You know what I mean? That. And so when God asked me, what else do you desire? I was like, I was like, who else do you want to interview? I mean, I'll interview whoever you ask, Lord. But you gave me Natalie first. I have no list. I have no more lists. You gave me Natalie Cole first. You gave me Natalie Cole seeing me at a party and telling me, I want you to know I signed a book deal and I'm going to need you. Natalie Cole calling me almost all of 98 and half of 99, yeah. So fact checking. So did I get arrested in August or September that year? Natalie got arrested in February. You got arrested on your birthday. How come you know? Okay, I promise I wouldn't ask you. She said, oh my God, you know everything. I was like, I know everything about Natalie Cole. I don't know everything. I know everything about Natalie Cole. Though. And so there was, when God asked that, I looked at my list, and even in my wildest dreams, bro, Natalie Cole would have been at the top of a list that God created this way. God created the list this way. So you get to meet Tina Turner. Be at Patti LaBelle's house for your interview, and she does a full script. You get to meet Luther at it's a Sony club, and he goes, those shoes are fabulous. You want to trade? And I was like, your shoes don't match my outfit. I could have had Luther's shoes, but our outfits didn't match. And I was like, the moments where celebrity, I'm walking over by United Nations and a Cadillac, Escalade limo rides in front of me, and my friend Derek Rutledge, who is makeup artist to Michelle Obama, and now singularly to Oprah Winfrey on her TV shows, movies, specials. Derek goes, hey, Kevin. And then the back window rolls on, it's Patti LaBelle. She goes, hey, sweetie, I told you that was him. I'm saying, okay, wait a minute. I'm walking down the street, a limo sees a dude on the corner. And inside, Patti LaBelle says, oh, that's Kevin. And my friend has to go, you're right. But Patti saw me first. I was like, what else wrong? And I had no answer, bro. I had no answer. I had no singular answer to, because I still can't explain. When people go, how come is it? So literally, TLC, Toni Braxton, Aaliyah, Scarface, Vanessa Williams, Dave Koz, Maxwell, K7, Mariah Carey, Wyclef Jean, another Maxwell, one for Embryo, one for Urban Hang Suite, Barry White, Jaheim, Anita Baker, Crystal Watts. What are these doing in my house? Because the Natalie Cole one is over there on the Natalie Cole one. I was like, so what is it you need? What else do you need? So if you can't move on until I give you this other thing, what else do you need? I was like, oh, okay.
So what was it like for you when BET had that anniversary gathering after Thanksgiving, the 40th anniversary, with all of the alums and just hearing the stories and everybody reconnecting and celebrating BET's legacy?
So a lot of people don't know, bro. Montez Miller is a type. Montez Miller and Curtis Simons, bit down on this thing, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. But Curtis came up with it first. Curtis Simons, affiliate marketing senior vice president, just wanted us to get together. So we have done this twice in person. We had done it 2 years ago and then 2 years before that. And so we had some of those moments. Where the virtual opportunity expanded it is that people who couldn't get on a plane for 2 days and fly to DC were now able to do it from across the globe, right? We had Mary Lou Bedeau, who was one of our Warner Brothers people who lived, who got us Prince in studio. She was always dropping people through and making sure they knew the importance of BET. And she's in Australia now. She was able to be there. So her, to see the virtual reunion also let us see the virtual impact of us, right? To see that, oh, well, there's Big Les and there's Deja and there's Fran and there's Ananda who had just, Ananda pertinent because she's talking about her cancer fight and she's everywhere, but she stops to come to the BET reunion, right? So people stop their worlds to come into this space and say, I was a part of this. I was a part of this. I'm a part of history. I'm a part of the culture in very real ways. That, man, there was no explaining how soul soothing that was. You know what I mean? Again, that in the midst of all that's going on, that all of us get together. Then at times we broke out into separate breakout rooms based on shows, and just acting a fool, and people who aren't on the screen that you can't see but are texting you like, I see you. Swipe over the page for you can't see me. You know what I mean? And then you go into a separate, FaceTime it. You know what I mean? And so you're supposed to be on here, but you're doing it, so you go off camera so you can have a separate conversation. And so that's dropping in, but people don't realize that some of us have dated them. That some of us have hung out with them like, yeah, when you come to town, you staying at my house. People don't understand that that's how rich the culture is, right? That there are people who come to town and go, I remember even Marcel was was at Black Girls Rock, and she was like, we had met at a cultural fest, and she was like, "Are you in New York or New Jersey?" I said, "I'm in Newark." "Oh my God, I'm at NJ Black. Come get me." You know what I mean? It was that's the kind of love relationship that we have with folk. And again, there are people who dated inside BET and married inside BET and had family inside. There are people who had a romantic engagement with people who they connected with, who were celebrated, people, and there's a connection to BET that is eternal, that none of this, the question, that Montez had all of us answer, that my response ended up being kind of the profile piece of, where would I be without BET? This is like, where would I be? Like, what would my whole life configuration have been? As the budget analyst from DC working for the government, not walked into BET, worked for Lydia and Natalie Cole, and then said Diva Week, and then became a researcher, and then got the opportunity to produce. And people who had said, "Who is he? Why is he getting this opportunity?" And the Natalie Cole interview comes on, they go, "Yo, so if you need help with your next one, I'm in." I was like, "Wait, what? Wait, how? Oh, are you telling me it was good? Are you telling me you liked it?" Because you don't want to say it. So they just kind of like, "Yeah, you need me next time, I'm in." But there are celebrities who can see you in a crowd and go, "Hey, you BET." That you talked about, that earlier at the beginning of this interview, you talked about having gotten your BET official merchandise. Man, imagine 20th anniversary where we get boxes that each have like BET leather jackets in them, or 15th anniversary we get a varsity jacket, and you think, "Oh my God, I work for BET. Oh my God!" And so you put that on because you're flying to some town and you want to have your BET jacket on just to feel cool, and like the hotel upgrades you because you work for BET, or you go into a restaurant and they, "Can you get me Donnie Simpson's autograph?" "Yes, ma'am, I sure can. Just give me the address." "Oh my God, your dinner's on me. As long as you staying in this city, just come by here and you'll eat." "Wait, sir, because I can go." Okay. I'm telling you, I've been in cities and had my hotel room upgraded.
All because of BET. And that jacket was so popular, Evander Holyfield even wore it on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Evander Holyfield wore it on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That's how much this means to the culture. That's how much BET is the culture. That's how much BET is.
Yes.
106 & Park, Teen Summit, YSP Magazine, Emerge Magazine, Ed Gordon, Melvin Lindsay, Donnie Simpson, Video Soul, Planet Groove introduced the world to Erykah Badu and Rasan Patterson and Maxwell. That there are so many Black artists today that some human being like you and me can look at and go, "We did that."
Right.
Like I go to a Maxwell concert, and seated front row, and he don't shake anybody's hand but mine. He's like, "Right, hey." But Maxwell was also the first person I heard from when Natalie died. "Hey, Kevin, sorry to hear about Natalie. I know how much she meant to you." I was like, "How do you know how much she meant to me?" "Oh, because we talk. Like, like, we could have conversations and people knew about your mother." Diana Ross came to Video Soul for that Diva Week. She was the first one, and one of the young ladies came into to the green room to tell her that her mother had worked at Motown. And she asked who her mother was, and she told her. She went, "Oh my God, that's your mother. How is she?" And she told her how she was. She said, "She talks about you all the time." She said, "Could you get her on the phone?" And so she dials her mother's number. "Hi, so and so. This is Diane." this is Diane, because Diana also calls herself Diane something. So she said, Diane, and she's like, oh my God, where are you? She's like, I'm sitting here with your daughter. And she talked to the girls' mama like they were, young girls at Motown. We bees the culture.
Right.
And I'm proud of that in ways I cannot even explain until somebody has to tell the story of how Maxwell, it's like people look at Maxwell now. This is my favorite, my personal story. Like, I'm sitting at my desk just listening to me. No, I'm sitting at my desk typing, and I hear this music going through the air, and I was like, what is that? And so Michael Joyner, who's a producer for Screen Scene, has been sent this CD because they're trying to get, if we could get a little feature on them for Screen Scene, we'd appreciate it. And I was like, he's like, well, you want to listen to it? I listen to it. And I'm telling you, I'm getting drunk on this album. Urban Haynes Suite is just a perfect album from beginning to end. And I get to Whenever, Wherever, Whatever and start to wail. I was like, what? And if there's a thing that you need for you and your blood, I will bleed. I called Michelle Fuentes at Columbia. And I was like, so I'm listening to this Maxwell album. She's like, do you love it? I was like, can I get a copy? And then I was like, wait. She said, no. She said, do you want a copy? And I was like, oh my God, yes. And then she says, how did you get it? And I was like, Mike Joyner's listening to it because they just couldn't get any traction on him. And then I was like, is there any visual? Because people forget. So people think that BET, and me especially, fell in love with Maxwell because he's fine and well-dressed. And so that must be why you put him on. This album that we got, often those demos aren't the album cover. It was a gold shoe on a carpet. I had no idea what he was. Whenever, Wherever, Whatever. And then Lonely's the Only Company. Between those two songs, I was like, who is this? And so I give it back to Mike. And she sends the video, and I'm trying to play it in the video review meeting. We're like, yeah, we're going to play it. We're going to support it. And then we realized, I talked about Boss. I was like, I would stake my career on this dude. There is something special about it. And so we had a short-lived show on BET called Flavor in Your Ear that Brett Walker hosted. It was this kind of one-on-one profile. And people, again, so Maxwell comes, they bring Maxwell in to do the interview, and he comes looking for me because I get the interview schedule. And I was off on a shoot, so we didn't even get to meet then. And so then Ascension Don't Ever Wonder happens, and he blows up. And he comes to take the entire music department to lunch, and that's when we meet. And he's standing in front of me, and he's like, bro, why? I mean, like, I was doing college tours, and they just couldn't get, because that neo soul sound, that was 96. It was him and Erica Erica's at least had a little bit of hip hop to it. His was like classic sweeping soul, and they didn't know what to do with him. And then Ascension's got enough of the boom, boom, boom. And they were like, yeah, this is what we can work with. And so, because the first single was Till the Cops Come Knocking, that was just a whole nother sound. And so we had this lunch, and he's looking at me like, why, like, what was it? And I was like, he's like, why did you believe in this album like this? I said, and if there's a thing that you need for you and your blood, I will bleed. And if ever you yearn for the love in me, whenever, wherever, whatever. I was like, who says that? That's a soul incision. You can't just walk by that and act like you didn't hear it. He's like, but so many people did. And I was like, that's because they weren't listening. And so Maxwell and I became intimately close because of that. Get on the phone and he'd be sending Christmas presents because you realize fighting for somebody got them a career that could have gone and flown anyway, but that because we decided we were playing Maxwell in the top 20 when he wasn't even in the top 70 on the charts. There are artists who radio doesn't get to take credit for. BET does. We believed in them. We played the song, and then radio was like, "Yeah, get us that." There are times and other ways that it happened, but in the Maxwell, Erykah Badu, Rahsaan Patterson, they came to us for TLC. TLC sent us Ain't Too Proud to Beg in October of the year it came out. And then they had to bring TLC to BET to bum rush our video review meeting to say, stop playing our record. Stop it. The album not ready. And y'all took this song to #1 faster than we thought. And now radio's begging for an album. The album ain't finished. So we had to pull a video back to medium rotation from heavy because we were outpacing the record label as it related to support. So there's no way we could go in here and ask them to stop doing something people begged them to do, but maybe the artist can convince them.
Wow.
And we were like, okay.
Right. And for some of you that do not know, BT had a hand in the career of New Kids on the Block. And I'm going to explain to you how. They originally did a video for Please Don't Go Girl, which Maurice Starr paid for out of pocket. Jamie Foster Brown of Sister to Sister magazine and Maurice Starr knew of each other. Maurice is like, hey, I got this new group. They're like New Edition. I got this video and I'm having trouble. So the video gets played on BET. New Kids
Because Jamie
marketed.
Foster Brown is an assistant producer. It's associate producer at BET.
So the video gets played on BET. New Kids on the Block getting traction on the R&B side of things. But once Pop got a hold of them, everything changed. But BET pretty much had a hand in helping one of the biggest boy bands in the world.
And
they did an episode of Video LP with Sherry Carter.
People don't realize that the impact of BET is so huge that New Kids on the Block, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, all of almost none of those white groups, even Britney with a couple of hits, they did not get traction until they stopped by Blackville. It took them to a whole nother level when they realized we were paying attention, and Pop almost wanted to grab them from us before we made them stars. You know what I mean? So they're like, oh, give us back, give us up. That's ours.
And we know how that goes. And I want to talk about this one BET personality that also had a big influence on me, in addition to Donnie Simpson, and the list of others goes on and on. Terrence J. The reason why I say Terrence J is because he's from Rocky Mount, North Carolina, which is about 45 minutes from where I grew up in Gaston, North Carolina. And when he got on BET, and they say, man, this guy grew up 45, 50 minutes down 95 from me. And he's doing everything that he's doing on BET, and to see where he is now, acting, being an entrepreneur, it just gave me, from Gaston, North Carolina, the ability to dream and say, hey, if he can do it, I can do it too.
I mean, I understand that because I graduated from Woodrow Wilson High School in DC in 1983. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Melvin Lindsay graduated there from 1973. And so, 83 was also the year I graduated. And because he was celebrating his homecoming, and we were celebrating homecoming, and it was his kind of 10th year reunion, there was a moment when they did a pep rally, and we didn't know who was coming. It was just one of those big, homecoming pep rallies. And then Melvin Lindsay came, and then Melvin Lindsay brought Donnie Simpson with him. Our high school almost blew up, with all of the. And I was like, oh my God, Melvin Lindsay went here. He walked these halls. He had this teacher. He could have sat in this seat, and it just made me, like you, just dream of possibility. Because things have happened for me that I couldn't even have imagined dreaming, right? And again, for God to have started at the Natalie Cole, but like being able to be. So here's what Melvin Lindsay was coming to the campus, and we knew that. Some of us knew it because I was on the, and my senior year, I'm on, yearbook committees, homecoming committee. And so they were like, and so Donnie's coming and then Melvin's coming. I was like, y'all can get anybody you want to escort Donnie Simpson. I love him, but I know they're all gonna fight. I'm escorting Melvin Lindsay. I don't care what nobody says. I gotta take his hand. I gotta take, but I'm walking him in because Melvin got daggone Lindsay. Melvin Lindsay, who died on his favorite singer Diana Ross's birthday during a quiet storm. Literally, it was softly rained that day when we got the news that Melvin had died, and all of us were like, "Melvin, are you kidding? Like it's not raining loud. It was, you know what I mean? It was a quiet storm on Diana Ross's birthday when Melvin Lindsay died. Wow, right? And so that WHUR and BET are in my hometown, and I got to in any way be connected to them, and my HUR connection is just as a listener, and then to be able to meet Melvin Lindsay, to know Donnie Simpson, and that's, for Donnie Simpson to be able to know me in a crowd, that's not you, Donnie Simpson. You, Donnie Simpson.
Right.
So, and Donnie doesn't know, hey, he'll be like, hey, Kevin, hey, Montez, hey, Darrell, you know what I mean? He knows you. He knows you like family, and it can still blow your mind because at first sight, literally brown-skinned, green-eyed Donnie, he sparkles. You're like, that's Donnie Simpson. Oh, he's speaking to me. Let me come back. You know what I mean? It's a huge thing. and it never gets old. It
Right.
never gets.
Right, because when I went over the dialogue for the top 20 countdown, like this brought to you by Coca-Cola Classic Video Soul Top 20, like, man, you do know it, don't you? I was like, he's complimenting me on knowing my stuff, and I was like just humbled that first off, I hardly had any interviews to my name that he would agree to do the interview in the first place. But still, the fact that hey, this young man knows his stuff. And that leads me to say I'm humbled by you taking the time out of your day to do this interview with me. And do you have any shout outs you want to give before we wrap, and also plug your social media?
So you drop names, just shout out to the whole BET family. I love Montez Miller, calling it, the queen of the world. She knows everybody and everybody knows her. All of the talent that's ever, blessed BET stages. The fact that people know me, that BET isn't just, Black Star Power, but people know people who've done the work and engage us. They remember our name and credits. They've been following our careers. It's just a beautiful thing. So to anybody who ever, said, hey, my God, I loved you, or Access Granted was my favorite show. I still have episodes. I still remember the first time that I went on the YouTube and put in Lyrically Speaking, and one of my shows that I did not post came up, and I was like, how was this stuff on the internet? It's just mind blowing. So to all of the BET family, the family that worked at BET and the family that continued to support us through the years, just thank you. Just thank you. Just thank you. If you got old stuff, just post it because we love it. I love what it feels like to walk down memory lane. I'm at Kevin E. Taylor on most social media. At Kevin E. Taylor on Instagram. You can find me there on Facebook, on TikTok. But the only one that has any variance to it is Kevin E. Taylor TM3 because it was already Kevin E. Taylor on Twitter. But if you put in Kevin E. Taylor, I'm the Black. So, just connect. People think just like you did. People think that making a request to come on podcasts, come on shows and do these interviews. It's like I know you're busy. I'm never too busy to continue the legacy of the culture. So if talking about it keeps the conversation about it, I'm so blessed that there are, young people that are people in the world who could be doing this easy entertainment stuff, want to unpack BET and history, that want to ask about details. Because sometimes, without you all being this intrigued about some of these stories could die on the vine because, people know the kind of topical stuff. And then you ask another layer, another surface or two under it and get to sparking some real kind of, reminisce. Like, yeah, I remember the first time I met Mary J. Blige, and she cussed on this at and then they had to bring Andre Harrell to sit beside her for her next interview, and we had a fight because she was real gruff and was real rough on me. And then the next time, she was at the network and My Life came out, she was a whole new artist. We created a masterpiece. And so I ran down with People Magazine and read the review. And she's like, I recognize your voice. I was like, no, let me keep talking. She's like, no, for real. And she's like, we fought last time I was here. I was like, but girl, we just listened to this interview. I mean, this review is a masterpiece. And, and that years later, you can have, celebrity nudge you on the street and be like, remember that time? You're like, you remember? You remember. And, so I'm so blessed, bro, that you chronicled moments like this, because this is the stuff, right? Some of those BET things are not going to get on YouTube. If I have my way, all of mine will get there, so that your son, your children can go, Dad, so this dude did what? So who is this person he's talking about? Right? See, Stevie Wonder, how did he know Stevie? My own son would be like, Dad, how come, first of all, I adopted a 13-year-old, now 31, right? My son has his own son. And when I took my son to his first concert, it was Natalie Cole. And he was like, who are you, Mr.? Like, he's still in this moment, like, you're like, Dad, you're my pastor, but he's like, you're a superhero because everybody knows you. But I'm like, we're in New Brunswick, I'm a big Black dude. A bunch of people know me. Everybody doesn't know me. Then I take him to see Natalie Cole, and as she's finishing the show, she's singing I Love It. She goes, I got some friends in the audience tonight. Turn the lights up. Kevin, where are you? And he's like, see, everybody. I was like, I swear, I've seen Natalie in concert 100 times. She's never done this, right? Or to have the Patti LaBelle pullover, or just a moment where somebody is singing and they point at you. You're like, these moments were birthed out of being family. And the fact that you are documenting this and digging deeper, beyond the album cover, all my Natalie Cole albums are there, like literally on one of these shelves. They sit because I got the CDs, I got the iron, because it all matters. And so I love that that's the name of your podcast, because this is the stuff that got me into BET, right? When I would, it's nice to be meeting En Vogue, but it's like, oh my God, Sylvia Rhone is coming with them. I remember the first Billboard magazine I read, an article on her, she's coming, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh my God, Miss Rhone, I love you, I love you, I love you. And she's like, what are you talking about, right? Now, you're a fan of me. I was like, yes, you're the first Black woman, the first woman, but so it just opened doors. And so to go from that fanned out moment to being in New York and Sylvia Rhone calling me, where are you? I'm at the Drake. I'm coming to get you. I'm taking you to this party. I'm like, why? But there's moments I still marvel at, and I'm so grateful for. And brother man, this will be one of them.
I appreciate it wholeheartedly. You can catch this interview on all streaming platforms, Anchor, Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, wherever you stream, and the video version on YouTube at my channel, youtube.com/Beyond the Album Cover, BET and Amazon. Please give us fans a repurposed version of that varsity jacket Evander Holyfield wore on Fresh Prince. I want one of those so bad so I can wear it with some Air Forces, try not to get jacked for it like the star of Georgetown or Carolina or Charlotte Hornets jacket back in the day. Ladies and gentlemen.
I think after they see all of these t-shirts and hoodies doing well,
yeah.
I bet your jacket will be coming by fall.
Yes. Put me on the list for the jacket. I already got my BET hoodie. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Mr. Jack of all trades, Kevin E. Taylor. Mr. Taylor, thank you for coming on to Beyond the Album Cover.
It's my pleasure, King. Be blessed, be well.
Yes, sir.